What's good, YouTube? You're back on S Motorsports. Today we got 2 tables full of QA1 goodness. That's right, guys, you're back on S Motorsports. If this is your first time tuning into the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button, as you don't want to miss what's going on with this build, as we got Power Tour coming up and definitely some testing out of all of this goodness you see right here. So right off the bat, I want to give a huge shout out to QA1 for sponsoring me on the Trans Am for this build. If you missed the rear suspension install, make sure to click here and check that video out as well, or the unboxing of all of this stuff where I maybe go into a little bit more detail. But what you see here is the front suspension components off of QA1's newly redesigned 3rd gen F-body handling kits. So I didn't get a specific kit, stage 1, 2, 3, but I basically got the whole catalog, just fine-tuned to exactly what I wanted. So going over quickly, what did I get? You can see I basically went with the front coilover setup instead of their spring slider setup. So I am not using QA1's front cross member or K member. I'm using their coilover setup because I am only running 245 front size tires, which I can definitely get away with just doing their coilover setup. We got lower front control arms. We got a Wonder Bar up there. We got a strut power brace. Obviously, their caster camber plates to go along with their struts. We got the 350-pound springs, which is their handling springs for the coilover setup. We got the bump steer kit, which will probably be the last thing installed. And then we got their new front sway bar. So the Trans Am here that you see is a 1985 Pontiac Trans Am. It is a WS6, so it does have the, call it upgraded suspension components that were on it from the factory. So the front sway bar size that's on the car is actually the same size, or pretty much the same size. The rear bar was bigger on the QA1, but it had the handling package back in the day, which the springs were probably overly stiff, and the shocks that we have on there aren't really doing a whole lot. So this is going to correct a lot of the issues that 1985 engineering didn't, and we got a lot better upper strut mounts here, which allow us to fine-tune the caster and camber, and all of these parts are just all the parts that go with the front struts. Hardware, all of that is included. The only piece that I did have to buy that QA1 says to reuse is the spindle nuts that go for the struts right here. I did purchase these separately, and this is part number if you just want to search that for those bolts. I just wanted to get new hardware just to make sure actually it all looks nice. This stuff is so pretty, I don't want to dirty it up with old hardware. So one of the big components that we're going to be doing are the front lower control arms, as I believe that is going to be a huge upgrade from what I currently have, which is just obviously the stock control arms and whatever 30-year-old bushings, rubber bushings. Those aren't cutting it anymore. First off, so what we're going to do is just get everything disassembled on the car. We need to disassemble basically one side at a time. I want to, just because of how I'm having it jacked up here. I don't know if you can tell, but I actually already sold the upper strut mounts here, so the struts are poking out of the top there, and so the car is really unmovable right now. So I want to get one side torn down, the front wheel, all of this junk off, and then get the sway bar and Wonder Bar that I currently have on there, and just get it stripped down so we can start installing all of this QA1 goodness, as it is very nicely painted, looks like super high quality. So I'm super excited to get this car on the road, as weather is getting nice here in Wisconsin, and I can be driving this car shortly, so I want to get going here. So let's get to it. All right, guys, so like I said, I'm going to start by taking the wheel off and getting this half of the front suspension disassembled. I'll leave the other half control arm and strut in for now, but I got to get this jacked up, supported probably by the subframe connectors, and then get the sway bar and all of that good stuff off. so we can basically, you know, do one side at a time. So I'm gonna put you on time lapse and start stripping the front suspension down. Okay, I wanted to mention, because it's worth mentioning, the cotter pin was stuck in the ball joint thing. I couldn't get it out. It was rusted in. And so I basically started having to drill it out, and I was using, you know, my old drill bits. I have plenty of other new drill bits that I've gotten as well, and let me tell you, they suck. And so you know what doesn't suck? These are Milwaukee drill bits. I'm going online and buying more just drill bits from Milwaukee, because this actually drills. Half the drill bit, actually not half, all of the other drill bits I have suck. They don't actually drill steel. These things, boom, right through. I mean, I don't know how much they cost, but I'm gonna pay for them because they're great and they just saved me a ton of time. So this is just a very small kit that I got. I'm gonna look. If I find some on Amazon or something, I'll put a link in the description, because it is worth it, because it just saved me a ton of time. So yeah, all right, now let's get this ball joint off. Just to bring you in here quick, look at that. Look at how shot that ball joint is. It's shot. Grease is pouring out of it. Definitely not good anymore. Alright guys, so we got all of the old suspension components off, and it was a little bit of a struggle. Those A-arms did not want to come out. Your best friend is going to be the air chisel with a kind of a punch tool to get that bolt going in the right direction, as mine were both seized to that inner, inner crush sleeve basically in the control arms, and that bolt did not want to come out. So that was a little bit of a struggle, but got everything out. So now we're to the good part, and we're going to start throwing on the QA1 stuff. I want to start with the strut towers, get that brace laid out as well, just to make sure that we get everything aligned. I'm not going to tighten anything down right away, as I just want to get everything kind of mocked up. I did kind of start to throw one strut together. I will go over that on the second one. Really, there's really not much to these at all to get them put together, so pretty easy. But let's start by getting these strut mounts in, as well as the strut tower brace, and get those laid out. All right guys, I got you in a little point of view hat so we can see what's going on. Hopefully give you guys a good idea of how to install this, if I can figure out my light here. All right, so like I said, let's start with these front caster camber plates. I do want to see how these are going to mount up, and they do say, you know, what side they go on. And so we are using the strut tower brace That's provided in the Strut Tower kit. And then this washer is for over here, and this kind of acts as a washer. So we will put these kind of within reach, and then nuts. All right, and right now we're just kind of tentatively placing this. So of course this goes on like factory. You can see that this piece kind of snugs into place where it wants to go. Basically that's as far over it as it'll go because it hits that ridge. You can see the bracket right there. So I'm gonna move it as far forward as I can because we have a lot of adjustability for the caster with this guy moving this back. So, oh crap, did I grab the, of course I grabbed the wrong bracket, right? Nice. This is the one. All right, see this goes right over there, and then it's gonna sit down on this surface, and we will drill a hole eventually. I'm just not gonna do that now. I'm gonna make sure everything kind of lines up and get everything kind of in place with the strut tower brace before we drill that hole, as obviously that's hard to fill that in. So we will tighten this down. This one, passenger side, right. So we're just cutting this off, as this is the little piece that's gonna go on top there when you tighten the nut. So we'll just keep track of that. Again, the passenger side goes on the same. This goes underneath. You can see, maybe you can see, I don't know, the light's not really good down there. But from the top side, you can see this goes in. Like I said, this edge right there, I'm moving that tight up against right here. So this kind of moves the mount farthest forward because I do have adjustability moving this caster camber back. And I can always adjust that. And I kind of wanted to get this installed first so I can see where my strut tower brace is going to lay, as I'm concerned about it hitting this guy. So let's get this out. And I am going to do this. Yeah, don't do that. All right. All right. So that obviously goes right there. That looks good. And like I said, I'm just loosely tightening this. So there is some height adjustment, which they kind of show you how to do that. And, you know, so this guy, I might have to just remove this elbow and stick it angled. I don't think that should be a problem, but that's kind of what I wanted to check out. All right, take that out. See, and that's why I wanted to get this laid out first. As there is a little bit of adjustability in these sliding back and forth. I think I will measure this strut tower brace to get it right in the center, locked in. Oh, that is close. But we have some height adjustability. We will have to see how close we are to the hood, because this is all the way down. So if we lift that up, you know, we'd have Plenty of clearance, just not sure about the hood. So let's maybe check that out. Okay, I think I saw someone do this as a trick. You put the Play-Doh in the baggie, like so. Probably get the air out. And then you can set it there. Close the hood and see what kind of clearance you got. I'm gonna have to move all this. All right, let's see. Oh. Except you should probably move your light. That helps. Yep. I think you can see right there, maybe. Looks like I still had clearance, but I think we are gonna need to be down all the way, which means this guy's gonna be close. But I honestly think it might be okay. Okay guys, I basically got this more or less centered. Nice QA1 logo right in the middle, looking good. This, it's definitely tight. For some reason, this won't go into my oil fill cap, but this one will. So I don't know, I'm gonna probably just run it like that, see how it does. Maybe move that side up ever so slightly or both sides just to give it a little extra clearance. The back side is fine. It's just this front corner. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I can do there. Probably not much. Otherwise I might have to get a new one of these or something if it's the wrong one. I'm not sure. But let's move on. I think honestly, now that I got that taken care of, we have one coilover assembly done. I think let's move on to the lower control arms. All right, so basically for the control arms, I mean, it's pretty simple. It's already all assembled. Basically, I just plug and play right in. So we will cut these zip ties and try not to lose these bushings as they move really easy. We'll basically get them slid up in. And then I got the two bolts. There's one longer one, which looks like it's for this side. And yeah, that's really it. I mean, pretty straightforward. Forgot to turn the camera on. I just used the pry bar to open these up just a little bit. And then I could get these in a little better. Then it slid up into place. Yeah, that one doesn't want to go in, of course. It will if I wrench it in, I think. Let's get a nut on this other side. So that doesn't decide to, well, I probably will throw a little bit of Loctite on there as well. Okay. All right. I just thread that bolt in and went right in. So now I'll grab a little Loctite, you know, and that's still, I mean, we haven't tightened it up yet, but that moves pretty freely compared to the to the old one. Okay, both of these get torqued to 65 foot-pounds. Yeah, I just noticed they put the bolt in from the other way because this thread is sticking out just a little bit where it looks like it almost could contact the steering tie rod. So I'm actually gonna flip that around. Okay, one thing I did want to note is I switched the bolt so the nut is on the inside, and on the rear one, they kind of show the picture of the nut being on the inside, which you can't do because you can't insert the bolt from this side because the frame rail or the body is right there, so you can't get the bolt in. So the bolt has to go this way with the nut on this side. So both bolts are facing this way. Just a note, and I'm guessing it's the same on the other side as well. So now I can torque these up for good. All right, now we got both these torqued up. Let's see. Still moves pretty good compared to the old one. That one was basically locked in place. I'm going to jump to the other side, do the other control arm. This is the exact same, bolting it in, 65 foot-pounds. And then let's jump to installing the spindle and the strut. I think I'm going to do the strut first, get that hanging, and then get the spindle in and bring those two together. That's the plan anyways. Next, we got to put the spindles back on, and I did take these off and clean them up quite a bit. Ooh, looks like I missed some paint there. I might shoot that quick. But basically, we got to put this on, torque this up, and then we can get a strut in. So let's do that next. All right, like I said, I got this all painted up. Basically, just slip it on, and you put one washer that's supplied. They do give you a new castle nut, which is awesome. And then you torque that down to 65 foot-pounds. So we will do that. And it says torque to 65 foot-pounds. And then if you have to, go to the next cotter pin hole, but this time it lines straight up so we can slide the cotter pin in. Done. That's it. That easy. All right. Next, we get to put a strut on. Nice. See, that moves really nice and free. So let's see what it looks like with the strut on. I got to get this caliper out of the way here. Let's do that. Now, I am going to slide the new coilover setup in. It's looking fresh. So we will slide this up through. And then on the top side, you got to make sure you put one of these, which is like a, I don't know, conical type washer spacer guy. That goes on first, and then you put the nut. And I will just kind of snug that up so it doesn't fall. And now we got that in. So now we can lift the spindle up and put in some new hardware that we got. So let's see how this goes. Okay, I got one bolt in. I used the jack to lift it up a little bit. That helped. Now, should be able to pivot. 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 Oh, yeah, we're there. Oh, we're there.
We're there.
Woo! We got her. Okay, one thing I wanted to note, you can kind of see how close the coilover is to this lip here. I'm actually going to slide this bracket back a little bit, kind of slide that whole mount back. I had it slid forward, and that's not going to buy me any more clearance because the coilover is going to hit this ledge in the car. But if I need to grind that out, I don't want to drill this hole and lock this into place in this position because I want to scoot this back farther because I'm not sure how much caster I'm going to get out of this. And camber I'm kind of maxed out as well, which I could always do camber bolts here if I need to. But I want to make sure that if I need more caster, I can get it. So I'm going to scoot this back and kind of more or less butt this up to here instead of butting this one up to here. So just something I wanted to note, that it is pretty close there. So just kind of, like I said, I'm not even going to drill this hole until I probably check my caster and camber measurements. But next we need to torque these to 150 foot-pounds. So that's no joke. Good thing I had my Wheaties. Who's kidding? I don't eat Wheaties. Protein shake? Yes. Not too bad, actually. All right, now that that's torqued up, I'm actually gonna throw my tie rod on as well. I'm not putting the bump steer kit on quite yet. I'm going to get this set a little different, get my tires on, get it locked down, then put the bump steer kit on. So I'm going to throw the factory one back on. All right, guys, I'm going to quickly go through how to just set up one of these coilovers before you put it in the car. It's honestly really easy because there's really not much to it before it goes in the car. So I'm going to basically turn that down, extend the shock. Okay, we will pop this dust boot off, take off the adjuster wheel, set that aside. What I first do is just thread on the locking collar, kind of like there-ish. And I'm just going to put a little bit of anti-seize on now, as you are supposed to put anti-seize on. Threads, and then now we thread the red spring seat on, obviously with the ridge facing up for the spring. Okay, next you throw on the washer, which is the spring seat, and I added just a little bit of anti-seize to that as well. Well, actually, we can get this top piece ready to go, as that is basically these two washers, and you're going to make another washer sandwich, and that's going to fit in this groove here, and this piece goes on top. So we will do that. And before we forget, we got to put the dust boot back on. Now that I got anti-seize all over my hands, take those off. Next, the spring goes on. And then this piece fits over top. That's about it. And you can kind of tell, like, this has to go down just a little bit to make sure that's fully seated. I think that'll help with installation. Okay, so at this point, it's ready to be installed. So let's get this put in on the other side. And it's the same procedure as you just saw on this side. So I'll get this installed and then we'll jump to the sway bar and the wonder bar. Next, we're going to be installing the wonder bar and the sway bar. And so first, I already have the old, sway bar and wonder bar off. And so now we just need to throw the wonder bar up in first, as it gets held by the two outer bolts here on the passenger side and the one on the driver's side. So it'll go up like that. And then once that's kind of attached up or loosely mounted, then we can get the sway bar up and then torque all the connections at once. So let's head under the car and install this QA1 wonder bar. Okay, first we got to get these two bolts and this bolt over here loose, as the wonder bar is going to use those bolts as well. So these I don't think I've ever had out, so trying to be gentle with them so they don't snap off. We'll just get them started. A little bit of rust on them. go. Ooh. We're gonna spray a little lube on that one. All right, now we're throwing the Wonder Bar in. Obviously, you just line up the holes. They give you the bolts in the kit. So we will use those and we'll just get these started. Kind of snugged up. And we will just get these snug for now. All right, still can move freely, so now we'll get the sway bar brought in. Okay, I got the bolts ready for the sway bar, as it's going to be a little tricky with one person. And there are spacer brackets you have to put in. All right, let's see if I got this orientation correct too on these. Yep, so, like I said, it's going to be a little tricky with one person. Two would be nice. Okay. So you got the spacer bracket you got to put up there as well. So we'll put that there. Basically get one bolt started. We just got to get one in to help us out here. Okay, can we get two? Other side, same thing. Got the spacer bracket, goes in between the Wonder Bar and the sway bar. All right, next, I'm just gonna snug all these bolts up first. Make sure that this is sitting kinda in the center. Doesn't really matter. Just kinda getting it centered. I think that looks good. There we go. Easy as pie. All right, now we got to torque all these connections down. And it said, in one document it did say 37, and the other one it said 38. I'm gonna go 37. Okay, next guys, we got the sway bar installed, but we have to install the end links. And since I'm using QA1 control arms, I will not be using these end links because these won't work with the QA1 control arms. I will be using these other ones that they supply with the control arms. A little different in that, whoa, it's going everywhere. You're basically using a rod eye in the lower part here, and then the upper part is kind of normal. And they also give a hardware kit as well. So these will be for the other side. I will knock that one out as well. Put those back in the bag so we don't lose them. But yeah, basically this rod eye, oh, that's tight. That goes in there. And then this goes on the upper bushing. So let's install it. Let me get the hardware kit. Okay, this looks to be the bag, as I can figure. So we have one longer bolt, one shorter bolt. Let's see. What do we got here? I think one is a jam nut, actually. And we got some washers. So we got two bolts, two washers, two washers. Then we got a lock nut, and then we got the jam nuts, which are the fine thread, I believe. Yep. First step is to get this lower part installed with this bolt here. So that's what we'll do. All right, like I said, we got to get the rod bolt installed. So we got one washer. I don't know if it necessarily matters, but they have the bolt going. I don't even think you can do that. You can't do that. So that gotta go on the other way. Okay, so it goes like this. Rod eye. Like a glove. Yeah, let's throw this setup in there. So we got one of these, through the sway bar, one of these, and then there's supposed to be a lock nut on there too. God, that doesn't, I know it's gonna crush down, but. Okay. All right, we got everything assembled. I put the brakes back on. I got everything hooked up, and it is looking good. Everything is looking fresh. Now, I am waiting to put the tires on and kind of lock down the wheel position before I do the bump steer kit, as I'm hoping that I can get away with not really doing a major alignment. I will check it, but just to get it close, basically. One thing I wanted to point out, I don't know if I said, one concern I got to see, I will check it with my caster camber gauge. I'm basically maxed out on the caster as well as the camber, so I'm not sure if that's going to be enough. So we'll see how that turns out, but it is looking good. So let's get the tire back on, and then we'll set it down and kind of see what the ride height looks like, as everything is jacked up right now with it on a jack. So let's get the tire on and we'll set her down. Well, guys, we got a 4x4. Yeah, that's not gonna work. The back's looking pretty decent, actually. Not bad. That one's about right, you know. The front, I got this as low as I can go. Yeah, about that. That's not gonna work. I'm gonna have to find something else. And I know it's gonna settle some, but damn, it's not gonna settle that much. And it's definitely not, you know, once I roll it, it might come down a little bit. But I was expecting this to be like lower and have to jack it up a little bit. But yeah, I'm not sure what I'm gonna do. To be continued on this one. We'll have to figure out what's going on here. Because this is no good. No bueno. No bueno. Okay, guys, quick little update. I did have to get some new parts here, and what we got is a helper spring and a little collar to basically lower this coilover with the 350-pound springs that I have, that I got. It's not letting the car go down enough, and I need it to drop more. And how do you do that with coilover setup? You get helper springs. So this is what I got. It's Hyperco, I think CS 600, which is a 6-inch spring. And I already got the other side on, and I'll show you that now. All right, this is the other side. You can see we got it installed. I basically dropped it as low as it can go. Just from my calculations, this should be exactly kind of where I want it. It's basically as low as it can go with the 350-pound spring. So we'll see. I'll get the other side on. We'll get the sway bar connected back up and lower it back down and see how the ride height looks now. And one thing I wanted to note, don't use the impact on this upper nut. I may or may have not screwed up those threads by using the impact to tighten that. So yeah, that one got a lot of Loctite and tightened it up by hand, and we'll see how that one goes. Yeah, awesome. Oh yeah, that is sitting much better, guys. We got the Hyperco helper springs installed, and I got it dropped as low as it can go, and the height is definitely looking way better. As you can see, we basically have a 2-finger gap. The other side is pretty much the same, a smidge lower on the other side, but I am happy with this gap, and the springs are probably going to settle just a smidge, so I think that's going to be just about perfect. The bump stop underneath is pretty close, but you have to remember the bump stop is like a 2-to-1 ratio, so I should have, you know, just over an inch of travel. I don't know if that's enough. I might have to end up changing the bump stop to give it a little bit more travel. The rear kind of has something similar at just over an inch, so we're gonna see how it rides. I basically had the Trans Am at this height before with the original factory stuff, and I honestly don't remember how close the bump stop was. I might have been riding around on the bump stop. I'm honestly not sure, but this is looking way better. So now let's move on to the last thing we got to do to the front suspension before we can drive it. This is the last thing I need to do before we get this car lowered down and maybe able to test it out tomorrow. And what it is a bump steer kit that QA1 offers, and what this is basically replacing your outer tie rods. This is a tapered piece that's going to fit. Let me take this out if I can, one-handed. All right, here we go. So it is a tapered piece. This is going to go up into your knuckle steering arm point where the normal tie rod would go. That'll get cinched down. This piece is going to be sticking down, and basically you stack up a bunch of washers, and this goes underneath like this. Basically, this is your outer tie rod then, and you can stack and change the height of this up and down to match the angle of the lower control arm, and that basically takes care of most of your bump steer issues. So I did measure the angles on the car just a little bit, and they are off by 1.5 degrees to 2 degrees, which doesn't sound like a lot, but if you calculate that out, which I kind of did using CAD, it equates to a decent amount of change, or it could potentially. Let's get this installed, as it is the final piece before we can get this car down on the ground and maybe test it out, hopefully tomorrow, as it's supposed to be semi-nice out. So maybe you can see a little, the outer tie rod, that's the piece we're going to be changing. It's basically at the same angle. Like I said, it's like maybe 1.5 to 2 degrees off, which does make a difference. So what I did is we are going to replace one at a time. So I hopefully don't screw up my alignment too much, as the tire is going to be held in place. It's not going to be able to be rotated. So I'm just going to make sure that it basically fits up in there nice and easy, and do one side at a time so I don't totally screw my alignment up, as I do have to check it, but I think this is going to be a good way to get it back to where it basically kind of was. So I'm going to set you up on time lapse. We'll get that off and we'll start threading in, and I'll show you once I start stacking up the spacers and getting everything installed. Now that we got the original tie rod, outer tie rod out, this is what that looks like. You can see it's got the tapered end that goes up, and then this is the part that threads into the inner tie rod. And this is what the new setup is gonna look like. If we set those side by side, you can kind of see, except I don't want to get my sticker all dirty, but you can see what, it's taking the place of that. And basically the way QA1 has you set this up is the spacers they call it the 3 thicker ones and the thinner ones on the bottom. And then we will measure that with the angle gauge to see if that the control arm and this are at the same angle. And if they're not, we can adjust these thicknesses. So let's get this stud installed into the spindle, and then we'll get this guy installed and see what it looks like. So now that I got this threaded on, we got to torque this up. I can't get at this upper nut with a torque wrench right now, so I just tighten it up good until I can lift the car up, turn the wheel, and then I'll be able to access this nut to torque it to, they want it, was it 23 foot-pounds? This lower one is 36, and I should be able to get at that with a torque wrench. So that's what I'm gonna do. That's the wrong size. This really shouldn't spin, just in case. And I will wait to tighten these jam nuts until I do a tape measure alignment. So let's get the other side thrown in and then take a final look. All right, guys, we got both sides installed, as you can see, and it's looking good. I did do a quick measurement here. If we throw this on the lower control arm, we got roughly 78.5, 78.6. Now, if you throw this on the angle of here as well, this works good just because it's round and it clamps there good. Oh, that's all right. Come on. Okay, what the hell's going on? I think I pushed 0. All right, now if we try that again, we got 77.8 Now, if I don't hit 0, 77.4. So pretty dang close. I could probably take the thinner washer and put that up above to maybe get that a little better. The last time I measured it here, it was closer than that. It was 0.2 off. So we're pretty dang close though. That's right, guys. We got the QA1 suspension all installed. That's a wrap for this episode. I have a few things to tidy up with the strut tower brace. I have to bolt that down, but I'm waiting to do that before I make my final adjustment, that bolt right there, which I will drill and do that. I do have to set the front alignment or possibly take it in. I might borrow Build Season's front alignment kit, which I have done in the past, and that's actually worked out quite well. So I got to double check the alignment, and then we are ready to take this car for a drive with the full QA1 suspension. And boy, I think it's gonna handle. So that's it for today. Thanks for joining in. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to subscribe to the channel, as I greatly appreciate it. And you don't want to miss the test drives coming up, as we are gonna fully romp on this car and make sure this suspension is up for the task. And I got to get her dialed in for the power tour, as right now the shocks are just set on the softest setting, and we got to get that dialed in and find what's right for me. So stay tuned until the next one, guys. Peace.